Hello, I'm Nicolas, the CEO of HappyWork, the company of the real estate software HappyMo. We provide the solution all around the world. We have many offices in Europe, and we have real estate portal reselling our solution in Asia and Latin America. We provide a big opportunity to the real estate portal to provide solutions compliant and plug and play with the real estate portal. You have opportunity to improve the quality of the data of the listing on your real estate portal by providing a solution to the real estate broker.
Hitesh Oberoi is the CEO of Infoedge, and Infoedge is a listed company in India that has a range of classified businesses. And it's fantastic to have you join us today. I know historically you've joined us up physically on stage, which has always been good. But I thought today would be great to have a conversation with you about Infoedge, about what's happening in India, and then some of the things that you are doing, to take advantage of the coronavirus crisis. So let's start with, maybe you can do a bit of an introduction to Infoedge as a whole, and 99 Acres and the various businesses you have.
Yeah, I'll do that. So Infoedge is a veteran in the internet space in India. We are more than 20 years old. We started life as a job board. So Naukri, which is our job board, is our largest business. It's a clear leader in the Indian market. Close to 70% of our revenue comes from Naukri, which is a jobs business. Very profitable, 55%, 60% EBITDA margins. And then, of course, over a period of time, we diversified into other categories. So we have an online matrimonials business. We have an online real estate classifieds portal. And we've also been investing in a bunch of startups, in India. We made over 20 investments in the last 10 years or so. We're a public company. We've been listed for the last 14 years. The real estate business, 99 Acres, is our second largest business. About 15-17% of our revenues as a company come from real estate or 99 Acres. 99 Acres is also a leader in the real estate classified sort of category, but it's not as dominant as Naukri is in jobs. So there's a lot more competition in real estate in India than is there in jobs.
Okay, that's a great overview, Hitesh. Thanks for that. Now, to help paint the picture, and we're all living in various degrees of coronavirus infected lifestyles. What's it like in India at the moment regarding COVID?
Yeah, so India, what happened was that about 6 months ago, in the month of March, towards the end of March, there was a very stringent lockdown which was announced in India, and for about for a few months, in fact, everything came to a standstill. We in fact had to scramble to get all our 4,500 employees to work from home almost overnight. It was such a stringent lockdown, and as a result of the lockdown, the number of COVID cases were not very high, but the lockdown was very stringent. So as a result of that lockdown, almost all economic activity came to a halt in India for about 3 or 4 months. The GDP of India contracted by about 25%, 24% year on year in June quarter. So that was a terrible quarter for most businesses in India. We, in fact, both in jobs and in real estate, our revenues also sort of collapsed for a couple of months. We were down about 50% in the jobs business in June quarter. The real estate business was down 85% in the month of April, and was down 70% for the quarter as a whole. But then, by the time we sort of hit the month of June, early July, the government started relaxing the lockdown, and they started what is called unlocking the lockdown. And now we are at unlock 5. So now it's pretty much, pretty much like, it was earlier, except that, we are still working from home. But otherwise, the number of COVID cases have started going down, at least the number of reported cases in India. It looks like we are well past the peak. At the peak, we were, averaging about maybe 80,000-90,000 COVID infections a day. Now we're down to about 45,000-50,000 as a country, which is not a very large number for a country like India. Business is slowly getting back on track. We've seen a massive rebound in terms of traffic on all our portals. In fact, the real estate portal, 99 Acres, our responses on the site are up like 40-50% over the same time last year. We've been pretty surprised by what we are seeing in terms of buyer activity on our platform. We're not seeing the same kind of response on the rental side. That's a little sort of slow, but we've seen a massive surge in traffic for buy. the jobs market is also slowly getting back on track. We are back to maybe 90-95% levels in the jobs market as well. So let's see, fingers crossed on what is going to happen in the next few months, but it looks like a V-shaped recovery at the moment in India.
So given that, what's been the impact on your business, and what are the changes that you've made to adapt to this new environment?
Actually, for the first 3-4 months, like in June quarter, we were really worried, and we were sort of dreaming up all kinds of things we would want to do. Like, for example, we experimented with because all site visits came to a halt. We experimented with online site visits. We experimented with a bunch of things, webinars with developers, new launches on the platform through webinars, and various such things. But now it looks like it's going to sort of be, things are fast going back to normal. So people are on the streets, brokers are back, dealers are back in business. They're again listing properties like they were earlier. In between, we saw a surge in private owner listings on the platform because the dealers were not so very active. But now dealers are coming back. Enough clients want to meet face to face again. Enough developers sort of are back in action. For some reason, not for some reason, but for, the good news that, home loan rates have gone down in India, over the last 12-18 months. So for some reason, there's a massive sort of surge in buyer interest. Maybe people are expecting some great deals. Maybe people, because of COVID, want to, buy bigger houses. I don't know what it is, but there's a buyers are back in the market, and that's the good news. This is also the festival season in India. This is the time when we have Diwali, which is the largest Hindu festival, biggest festival. So there's a lot of buying which happens around this time in India, and so it looks like things are back to normal now. As far as our business is concerned, we are again sort of back to what we were doing earlier, to be honest, right? Calling on developers, calling on dealers, selling products like we were selling earlier. Of course, what we are sensing is that more and more budgets are likely to move online. There's a realization amongst both developers and channel partners and dealers that, the future is digital, that we also sort of got used to the idea of using more digital in their lives because of COVID. We are in India, all the digital businesses have seen a big boost. People are spending more and more time inside the house, have become more and more comfortable with OTT platforms, with online ordering, online e-commerce, with food delivery. So these things are now sort of becoming very normal in India. They're part of daily life, and therefore our developers and dealers who were, up till now, I would not call them very net savvy, have become a lot more savvier about using the internet than they were a few months ago. And because of this, we expect more and more sort of spends to move online, and that is going to benefit us in the long run.
So how does this impact buying and selling of real estate, and more importantly, what you do? Are you rolling out new tools? Are you, you've mentioned in some emails backwards and forwards, you're acquiring some businesses. What are the sort of things you're doing to operate at the leading edge, so helping bring the industry into this more electronic world?
Yeah. So what's happening in India right now is that there are a bunch of companies who are reasonably well funded and who are trying to target different sort of parts of the real estate market. So we are, of course, a general classified sort of play in real estate, along with Magic Bricks, which is our closest competitor. And then now you have a couple of transaction companies in new homes who have become big over a period of time. So they're doing more and more stuff online. Then we have a bunch of, then we have companies who are trying to take, do rental transactions online, right? So there are companies who are trying to do that. Then there are companies which are, trying to sort of get into rental management and stuff like that. So now there are a bunch of companies trying to do various things in real estate. As far as we are concerned, we are looking at 2-3 things. One, we are of course trying to figure out how we can make our platform stickier for our users, for buyers especially. Number one, we are looking at what we can do to engage our buyers more through the journey, the buying journey, which is often a few months in the real estate market. We are seeing how we can get closer to the transaction in some ways. We don't want to do the transaction still. That's the call we've taken till now, but we want to engage and handhold people through the journey. So we are basically investing in tools and a lot of other sort of research products and analytics and various such things to sort of engage the buyer over a period of time. So that's where we are right now. Now, let's see what shape and form this takes going forward. But basically, we're going to be investing a lot more in making the platform more content rich. We're going to be, sort of nurturing our leads a little more, guiding our buyers a little more, through the hand-holding them a little more through the journey, and then see where it goes from there.
Okay, so it's because if you think about the traditional classifieds business was, I get a listing, advertise, I just send the lead to you and good luck.
Yeah.
The transaction business, and Georg is a good example of a company that does that, is they manage that lead the whole way through and even close out the transaction with his salespeople, and he's got 10,000 of them, some large number through Southeast Asia. It seems like you're doing a part-way approach in that you're wanting to help manage the lead a bit more, perhaps add a bit more quality to the lead, a bit more information to the lead, do some lead scoring. What are some of the things you're doing around that? And I assume then that lead then gets passed on to the original advertiser in its enhanced form.
So see, one of the things we are right now more sort of focused on the buyer at this point in time. So one of the things we are trying to do is handhold the buyer through the whole journey. So because what happens in the real estate purchase cycle is that, buyers in the market for a long time, and often they may research or they may come across a property on 99 acres, but they don't respond to that, advertisement on 99 acres. They may respond to an advertisement on Facebook. They may respond to the same advertisement somewhere else. So we are trying to sort of, in some ways, build a CRM to manage a relationship with the buyer a lot better than we were earlier. And in the process, we're also using multiple channels. So we're not just restricting ourselves to the 99 acres platform. Of course, we have an app, we have a website, we have all that, but we're trying to see how we can use WhatsApp a little more than earlier. WhatsApp is a very popular sort of thing in India. So we are trying to see how we can communicate with users a little more using WhatsApp. We are using SMS a little more. SMS is still a very popular medium in India. We've also launched some assisted services for owners. So who want to, because a lot of the listings on our site are not through dealers. So we've also launched some assisted services for owners to help them, sell their property, to help them understand what prices are like actually in the neighborhood, so that they can get more leads when they advertise. So there's a whole bunch of stuff we're doing in this area. On the lead nurturing side, what we're trying to sort of, again, one of the complaints we get from our customers is that, the leads we get from 99 acres or from portals like 99 acres don't convert as well because they're earlier in their sort of journey, when they sort of apply on 99 acres or when they respond on 99 acres. So we're trying to sort of, help them, we're trying to sort of nurture those leads, help them understand which guys want to buy in the next 1 month, who are maybe likely to buy in the next 3 months, who are likely to buy in the next 6 months, stuff like that. So pass on more information along with the lead to the sort of advertiser so that they can act on the ones which are more likely to convert, faster.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. One of the businesses you mentioned you bought was a research and business analytics type company. What can you talk a bit more about that?
So in all our verticals, we started investing in a lot of adjacent areas with the intention of sort of, working closely with these companies to create more value for our users, both in Naukri and in 99 acres, and even in the education vertical we are in. So we've invested. We haven't bought. We've just invested in a company called Teal, which is a real estate analytics and intelligence company. See, in India, the real estate market is very primitive in a lot of ways. And, there are lots of issues around title checks, who actually owns a property. That's a big issue. The transaction history of the property is not available. So there are a bunch of things which are not easy to sort of get hold of in India. But what the government has now started doing is they've started making a lot of this information public on their platforms, right? So what Teal is doing is they're getting all this information. And see, in India, there are lots of states and state governments, and there are different rules and different regulations in different states regarding property. And all kinds of terminology are used. Sometimes the agreements are filed in the local language. They're not all in English. So there's a complex thing there. So what they are doing is they're trying to get data from all these sort of online places where data is available and make it available in a very user-friendly format to buyers of property, right? So they, for example, in the Delhi region, they now have data on 4 million houses, right, which they've actually got from all these sort of places. And now they have the transaction history of the house. They have the ownership details of the house. They have, all the data which sort of is relevant. And now, of course, what they're going to do over time is see how they can use this data and monetize it. What we are trying to work with them is on how we can make this data available to sort of users on 99 acres as well, so that the platform becomes stickier and is able to create value for them. So these are the kind of things that we are doing. And in addition to this, we are looking at a lot of other, what has also happened because of COVID is that, see what's happening on the funding scene in India. There are lots of startups, but only a handful of them, are basically, a handful of them are able to attract a lot of funding, but a lot of them are struggling because the market they are in is not very large. So we are sort of working on a strategy to see if we can consolidate some of them into 99 acres over a period of time. So there are all kinds of players there are people who build tools for developers. There are people who are building CRMs for brokers. There are people who are building, broker exchanges. There are all kinds of players out there doing all kinds of things. So we are trying to see if we can, invest in some of them and then roll them in over a period of time at an appropriate time.
Okay, so it sounds like you're thinking strategically about getting more data about the industry, understanding that a bit better, enhancing that data with your data, because that would make a lot of sense. Are you getting into things like AVM models, comparative models, so that people can do valuations or at least present to vendors comparative market stats?
So see, what we do is we have some pricing. So when people list properties on our platform, they mention prices. So what happens in India, unfortunately, often is that the price at which a property is registered is not, in many cases, the real price at which the transaction took place, right? Okay. So, but often the prices on our site actually are more real than the prices, which are registered in a lot of places. So actually, so what we've sort of developed is a pricing sort of index on our platform. We've been tracking prices for the last few years. We've been, for every society, every locality, we've sort of got a price sort of thing which we sort of revise and monitor and change every quarter. So this kind of information we make available to a lot of people on our site, and actually a lot of people come to the site for this information. Right, the official information is often less reliable than what we have on our platform, but valuation is still very, very hard.
Yeah, because I would assume that if you can crack the model of an AVM, a good AVM model, then you can work much more closely with banks as they start to offer more and more mortgage type products.
Exactly. So that's what we are trying to do with Teal in some ways, because Teal has a lot of transaction history of various properties, and they get to know of the latest deals which are happening in a neighborhood. So you get the latest data from what is there in the government records. You try and sort of marry it with what we have on our platform and see if you can come out with something which it makes a lot more sense.
So I'm going to finish off by asking a similar question I had with Mark and Georg about, you have this crystal ball and you're sort of looking for over the next 5 years. What does the Indian, and let's just stick to real estate, online real estate market look like? What are the characteristics of it, and then how have you positioned yourself to capture those values?
So the Indian market has actually disappointed for the last few years, if you ask me, because of various reasons, the real estate market. But I think finally we're at a point where it looks like real estate could look up once again as an asset class, as a category, because of lower interest rates and a bunch of other things happening in the industry. So if I were to sort of fast forward 5 years from now, I think new homes will continue to be an important part of the real estate market in India, because new homes in a country like India are sort of more affordable because they tend to come up outside the city, the projects. And the cities are still very crowded and very, very expensive to buy property in. So it's very hard, for example, to buy a property in Delhi or Bombay, because they're just very expensive and they're old also. On the other hand, it's easier to buy a property on the outskirts, in Noida, in Gurgaon, in the suburbs. And that's where a lot of the new projects come in. So they are newer, they look good, they have a lot more facilities, a lot more amenities, and they're also more affordable. So I think the new home market will continue to be an important part of the sort of market in India. And that's where a lot of the spending is. What is also going to happen in India is that right now the resale market is very, very small in India. But as more and more people buy homes, the resale market will also develop and become bigger over time. That's bound to happen. There will be a bunch of companies trying to do some trying to do transactions online, some trying to sort of, like I said, move the whole rental management or the rental sort of process online. A lot of the brokers in India, dealers in India don't want to do rent because they don't make a lot of money. So it's also sort of something which can be moved online and made more digital. So there's a bunch of people trying that as well. I think so that is going to be a big part of the scene in India going forward. A lot of Indians also can't afford new homes or real estate, and they can't afford to buy homes, so they would rather stay on rent. And rental yields in India are very, very low still. So it actually makes a lot of sense to stay on rent. So the rental part of the market will also be a large part of the market in the long run, and there'll be people taking a shot at that market. The real estate portals will also have to, at some point in time, make up their mind on whether they want to stay as just listing platforms or whether they want to sort of play a bigger role in the transaction. Right, especially on the new home side, because that's an easier one to crack from a transaction standpoint compared to resale. Resale is still harder. It's very, very, diverse. There are lots of mom and pop shops, very hard to compete with them. And it's a complex transaction also. But new homes are relatively simple to crack if you want to go down the transaction path. But at some point in time, one will have to take a call on whether you want to do that or not. Real estate, financial products, I think there is a play there. There are a bunch of people we are seeing startups who are trying to get dealers to do home loans, which is not the practice in India, right? So there is a play. It could be a play there emerging if you can make it easier for dealers to sort of file for home loans on behalf of their customers, and then you become this master aggregator of home loans, and then you do a deal with bank that can become an attractive sort of business over time. So there are people looking at that as well. But still, on the whole, 5 years from now, also the Indian real estate market will be a lot smaller than people think it will be. That's the worry, because the last few years have been in India.
Okay, Hitesh, thank you very much. It's always great to hear from you about what Infoedge is doing and the way in which 99 Acres and your other businesses are moving forward. So thank you very much for taking the time to chat today.
Hello, I'm Nicolas, the CEO of HappyWork, the company of the real estate software Happimo. We provide the solution all around the world. We have many offices in Europe, and we have real estate portal reselling our solution in Asia and Latin America. We provide a big opportunity to the real estate portal to provide solutions compliant and plug and play with the real estate portal. You have opportunity to improve the quality of the data of the listing on your real estate portal by providing a solution to the real estate broker.